Welcome to Over 50 TV, where we provide business and career advice to people over 50. My name is Lou Reyes, I'm your host. And in this segment of Hey Lou, I'm going to answer a letter that I received from a woman, and I'm going to call her Bobby. As I mentioned in a previous segment, if I get a letter from a guy, I always go with his name as being Bob, and I do that just for privacy reasons. That's it. And in this case, I'm getting a letter from a woman, so I'm going to call her Bobby. But here's what Bobby has to say to me. She says, "Hey Lou, my question isn't a typical question. It's part personal and part career related." She says, "Frankly, I'm not sure you're the person or a good person to ask because it seems that you are all business." Well, you know, Bobby, that's true and it's not true. This is business and career advice. But you know, we've got a segment on our channel here where we provide advice to people who want to stay healthy. We have a gentleman, Juan Tony, who talks about working out and keeping a holistic or taking a holistic approach to your health. And I think health is so important to business. I also believe that being calm and being able to make decisions with a calm mind is also important too. And sometimes I address questions like that, and it seems like the question that you're giving me is really a question about being calm, about having a good, stable home and family life. So I'm going to continue here. It says, again, frankly, I'm not sure you're a good person to ask because it seems that you are all business. But I want an objective opinion, so let me give you some background and then I'll ask the question. Okay, good, Bobby. So it says here, I met a guy online and less than a year later we were married. Well, great, fantastic for you. I believe that you could find somebody and within a couple of days, a couple of dates, you could know if it's the right one. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, but good. It says you met a guy online and less than a year later you were married. She says though, during what I call the courtship phase, he was very accommodating and understanding of my grueling work schedule at my family business. And and that's pretty rare to find someone who's understanding of a grueling work schedule. I've dated a number of people, and I can tell you most of the people, if not all but one, was always complaining about my grueling work schedule, about the time that I put into work. And even though I tried to explain what I was doing and what I was up to and was in steady contact, it seemed like it was never enough. So I do have some experience in this area. And I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of people, especially when you're over 50, you've dated a few people, you get a feel for what somebody needs and for what you need, and you're very comfortable in asking for what you need. So she says again, he was very accommodating and understanding of my grueling work schedule at my family business, which sometimes includes working holidays and weekends. And that's rough. But being a person who has worked retail, and I'm not saying this is a retail business, Bobby, but somebody who's worked retail where I've had to work holidays, I've had to work weekends. I've been self-employed. I started a publishing company quite a few years ago. And I know that I was working 7 days a week, and I was working holidays, and I worked weekends. I mean, sometimes you just got to do that, especially if you got, I had over 100 employees at one point. So I had a lot of work. I had, people who were doing what they were supposed to do, but there were still many times where I'd get a call on a holiday or get a call on a weekend and say, "Hey, can you come in?" Or we got to go over some information. Here's some of the articles that we're going to publish. So I get that. I understand what it means to work, especially at a family business where everybody's depending on you and your family's counting on you. She says, I couldn't have asked for a better man. Well, that's great. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? But since we've been married, he complains all the time that we don't see enough of each other. He doesn't understand why I can't adjust my schedule so I'm home more. He says that he loves me and I should cut back on work. He says we're not kids anymore. She mentions here we're both over 50, he's retired. Well, when you go into a relationship, I've always heard and I've always believed that you go into a relationship to give. You're giving of yourself and that person's giving of their self, and you are in that relationship because you love and you care about each other. But love and caring about each other includes loving the whole person, not that part of a person. So he says he loves you, but he wants you to cut back on your work. He understands, as you already mentioned, that this is a family business. I'm assuming he does understand that. He understands you've got a lot of responsibility. What I see, though, what I find sometimes, and I've witnessed this, and I'm not saying that's particularly true in this case, but you mentioned you're both over 50 and he's retired. He's retired. You don't say if he's doing something else, if he's got a part-time hobby or a hustle or whatever. I'm kind of assuming he doesn't, because if he wants you at home more, it means his schedule's a lot more flexible than yours is. So apparently he's retired. He doesn't have any ambition or desire. Let me clarify that. He doesn't have a desire to do more than to relax and enjoy the fruits of his labor. It seems, though, that as you go on to say here, Bobby, I love my job and I also love him. Well, when you love something and you love a person, that's one thing, and you love your business or your job, that's something too. They're both important, though. They're both who you are. Certainly your job, it's a family business, you're over 50, I'm assuming you've been at the business for a long time. It is who you are, it's part of you. That's hard to walk away from, it's hard to forget. It's hard to say, yeah, I'm just going to walk away, or I'm going to cut my hours back. And you sometimes, though, you wonder, who, if I cut back, who's going to take over? That's a position too. That's a whole other conversation, which is you're working in a place and you feel you have to have your hands on everything. And sometimes, all the time, I don't believe we should have our hands on everything. We need to develop a support system. But I'm going to go back to what I see here. The gist of this email is, which is you married someone who you met online. You knew each other for a year. I don't know if that was a long enough time to really get to know that person, but I can't judge that, because maybe you knew within a day or a week or an hour that this was the exact person that you needed to be with. But the fact of the matter is, he knew who you were. Apparently, I believe you knew who he was. He is a retired person, so he's not looking to do anymore. He just wants to relax. I think what you're saying here, though, too, is I love my job and I also love him. But you love all of him, and he needs to love, or should love, all of you, which includes your work. It seems like, Bobby goes on to say, it seems like I need to decide between my husband and my career at my family business. What would you do? And it's a tough question to answer. What would I do? I will tell you what I've done, and maybe this will help you. I've also been in a situation where, as I mentioned, I've dated people, but I was also married to someone who was extremely understanding of my ambition and my desire to build a business. I had a couple part-time businesses that flopped. They flopped. And she stuck by me because she knew that's who I was. I finally created a business, and stuck with this business, and went because I loved it so much. I loved that business, and I finally built a business that did multiple $1 million worth of sales every year. And you know what? We went through the hard times, we went through the good times. If you had told me that you were with this guy for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, he would know you. He would know who you are. He would know what motivates you, what moves you, what drives you. He would know what your inner desires are. He would know all those things if you were with him for a long time. I was with my wife for a long time, but she knew from the beginning what drove me. She knew all my desires. She knew what my dream was. So if you were with him for a long time, or really had a good understanding of who he was, and he had a good understanding of who you are, then this wouldn't be an issue. But it is an issue. It is an issue. All I'm going to say to you is this. You say, it seems like I need to decide between my husband and my career at my family business, between your husband and your career. It's a decision between not just your husband and your career. It's a decision between your husband and who you are. And that's how I see it. So you have to decide if you want to be who you are or if you want to be someone else. And Bobby, if you can answer that question, and I think you can, then you know the answer. You know what you need to do. Now, I will never say to walk away from a marriage or walk away from a relationship. I think you work at it as best you can and give it 110%. But again, Bobby, this isn't between your husband and your career. It's between your husband and who you are. This is Lou Reyes with over 50 TV where we provide business and career advice. And this is Hey Lou. If you have any questions in the future, you want to send me an email, just go ahead and send it to lou@over50tv.com. And I look forward to meeting you and talking to you again soon. Thank you.